Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Carolyn, your host. Welcome to Weekly Minis, your bite-sized workshop on the hottest acro topics. You can reference all of our previous Weekly Minis and more amazing content on our Acrobatic Arts channel on YouTube. If you have any questions while we're live, drop them in the comments, and we'll do our best to have Sarah answer those for you at the end. If you know someone who should hear about today's topic, be a friend and click the share button on this post right now and let them know we're here. Today, we are pleased and thrilled to bring you Master Teacher Sarah Reis for a bite-sized tutorial on anatomy of the bridge, and you are in good hands. Sarah has a bachelor's degree in kinesiology, studied contemporary dance at Simon Fraser University, and completed a second degree in education, going on to become a certified BC, British Columbia, Canada, school teacher. She also has a master's degree in human performance coaching sciences and a doctorate level studies in sports medicine and educational leadership. In addition to teaching acro dance for over 25 years, Sarah owns a rehabilitation clinic working with injured dancers and assisting them with flexibility and strength training. Sarah has presented research at the International Association of Dance Medicine and Science and has spent the last decade touring worldwide, presenting at various universities, dance conventions, and conferences, and can also be seen live from Los Angeles with CLI Studios. We are lucky to also have Sarah as an acrobatic arts course conductor and examiner. Even better, we have her here today live from her home office in Vancouver, British Columbia. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, friends.
Good morning. It's early there, but we are thrilled to have you. I know, and probably you know too, as a course conductor coming out of Module 1, teacher training, sometimes we get lots of questions about various things. People want to follow up on information that came out of the course. One of those areas of late that we've got a lot of interest in is anatomy. And so that's why we've asked you here today. You're the expert, our resident expert. You bring so much value. So I'll let you take it away. I know you've got a lot of great content in a mini bite-sized chunk. And so take it away.
Yeah, so I've prepared a video based on the bridge because I thought it would be great to have a specific skill that we're talking about and then break down some technical things that go wrong with the bridge and then loop that back to anatomy. So it's actually easiest for me to play a video today just so I can bring up some video content and graphics since I'm teaching anatomy. It just is better suited to show a video. But before we get into that video, I just want to remind you that learning anatomy is a lot like learning a second language, maybe learning Spanish or French or Portuguese or whatever language you're learning. You start with little bits of vocabulary, and then you put that vocabulary into bigger pieces, and you just got to get started somewhere. So you gotta pick it up, get the resources, buy some books, get that coloring book and color those muscles, and start picking up bits and pieces of the vocabulary. And then over time, as you've collected more vocabulary, you'll be able to use it and start putting into your language, and you'll be a little bit more confident with it. And you can start bringing it into your dance studio and using that language with your dancers. And I promise you, the more that you use it, the more confident you will become. So it can be intimidating, but you just got to start somewhere. And you'll find that once you start somewhere and once you start tackling little pieces of the vocabulary, it really will get easier. And the last thing to say to that is the body is set up in ways where the anatomy is talked about that will connect. So once you make that first jump about learning more bits and pieces, it will eventually connect, and you'll be able to know where something is located in the body just from the name that it's been given, because the anatomical structures have been given specific names that relate to what type of structure they are and where they're located. So I encourage you to just take that first jump and start collecting those terms and build on that and build on that. And next thing you know, you'll be a pro and you'll feel more confident when you take that into the dance studio. So with that, I will have us get started on this video. In this bite-sized anatomy lesson, we are going to discuss the bridge. In this episode, we will take a look at what often goes wrong in bridges and discuss some strategies for improving them,
while looping back to basic anatomy. First, let's take a look at the spine. We have the cervical spine, the thoracic spine, and the lumbar spine. How I remember it is we have breakfast at 7 o'clock, so that means we have 7 cervical spine. We have lunch at noon, there are 12 thoracic spine, and we have dinner at 5, there are 5 lumbar spine. Let's take a look at the bridge. A reminder that it's our goal to push our shoulders over top of our wrists to open up the thoracic spine while in our bridge work. If dancers are unable to access their shoulder range, you can raise their feet on a block, which will help them access more of their shoulder range and will provide a better position for them to train their bridge, as it will alleviate the stress on their wrists. Common spinal curvatures that you may see in your dance class. Scoliosis is a sideways curvature of the spine that is most often diagnosed in adolescence. Severe scoliosis can be disabling, so as educators, it should be something that we are looking for. Some signs of scoliosis developing can be uneven shoulders, one shoulder blade that appears more prominent than another, an uneven waist, one hip is higher than the other, one side of the rib cage kind of jutting out, or curving shapes of the spine when you look at the dancer from the back. Do send the dancer to go see a doctor if you notice signs of scoliosis to ensure that they are monitored and get the treatment that they need. Kyphosis is the curvature of the spine that causes the top of the back to appear more rounded than normal. Everyone has some degree of curvature in their spine. However, a curve of 45 degrees is considered excessive. I remember the term kyphosis because it rhymes with high. So chi and high, and it's the higher part of the back that has rounding, would be kyphosis. Similarly, lordosis, or low, the low part of the back, which is how I remember that. Lordosis is excessive curvature of the lumbar portion of the spine, which gives that sway back appearance. Now that we have looked at some of the anatomical considerations of the spine, let's take a look at that bridge again and identify the common errors. So things we might see go wrong in a bridge is that the feet are too wide, the feet are turned out, the knees are open or inward, the whole bridge is too wide or long. We see sinking into the lumbar spine, which is often as a result of them offloading from the thoracic spine and using the lumbar spine as a source of their flexibility. They are not pushing away from the floor, and there's piking in the hip flexor, which means the bridge is not perfectly pushed out away from the floor and rounded. Their arms can be bent, or their head is not looking at the floor. One of the most important conversations that you need to have with your dancers regarding the bridge is asking them, where do you feel the stretch? In the same way, when the dancer does a pre-forward bend, dancers may feel that in different areas, depending on where they are tight. Some might feel it in their neck or their upper back. They may feel it in their lumbar spine, their hamstrings, or their calves. So there can be great variation between dancers. The same will show up in the bridge. So when they push up in the bridge, do they feel it in their shoulders, through their neck, their lumbar spine, through their glutes? Do they feel it in their tummy, their hip flexors, or even their calves? So we want to be asking our dancers, where do you feel the stretch when we are working with them in their bridges? That is going to give us information about what additional exercises we will be doing to help give them the flexibility and access more gains, so that will then translate better into their bridge. So now let's take a look at these errors and ask the why question. Why is this happening? We'll start from the ground up. So with the feet, why are their feet turning out? If their feet are too wide or are turned out, it's usually an indication that there are tight hip flexors. The hip flexors are those muscles that flex or shorten at the hip. The hip flexors include iliacus, psoas, pectineus, rectus femoris, and sartorius. The prime movers of the hip are the psoas and the iliacus. Grouped together, they are often called the iliopsoas. The iliopsoas are the contributors to postural stability while standing, so they're very important. Let's take a look at the psoas. The psoas connects to the 5 lumbar vertebrae of the spine, crosses in front of the hip, and connects to the lesser trochanter of the femur. So as you can see, there's that really deep relationship and connection between the lower back and the hip. As acro dance educators, it is sometimes difficult to determine where the restriction is happening that is causing the turnout of the feet in bridge. One way that you can assess if it is truly coming from the hip flexors is to do a general modified Thomas test assessment. Have the dancer lay down on their back on a stack of mats, pull one hip to their knee while keeping the small of their lower back in contact with the floor, and then see what happens with the foot that is dangling off the edge. Does it rotate out to the side? Does it rotate in? Does it lift, shorten into a flexed position? What is happening with that hip? Will tell you some information about what might be happening with the dancer's hip flexor flexibility and where the restrictions might be. So if your dancers have wide feet or turned out feet in the bridge, and you think it is the hip flexors that are causing that problem, one teaching tool that you can use is to put a block between their feet for tactile feedback, and they can try and push their big toes into the block to help aid them in understanding the alignment. However, if the lack of flexibility is originating from the hip flexors, they may not have the flexibility that they require just yet. So let's take a look at how we can release the hip flexor. Very commonly that people will turn to lunging as a form of hip flexor stretching. If you take a look at the line of the hip flexor right now in a lunge position, you will actually see that it is primarily staying in a straight position. We are actually typically better off working to tilt the pelvis, which will then actually pull and activate on those hip flexors more so than just continuing a lunge with this straight line. We always want to pair flexibility with conditioning and strengthening. My favorite hip flexor strengthening and conditioning exercise is doing knee raises with a TheraBand or doing lifts from a seated position. We also condition the hip flexors when we are doing our V-sits in the acrobatic arts syllabus. Moving up from the feet of the body, I do want to address the calves. Dance teachers and dancers who do not have tight calves often forget about the calf muscle being a source of tightness in the bridges. I personally see in my practice that a lot of the dancers who are popping their heels when they are coming up from bridge or they're working in bridge, they may have really tight calves. We sometimes misdiagnose that heel popping as a hip flexor problem. So I frequently do calf rolling exercises with my dancers to release that area. My favorite way to do that is just to place a ball underneath the calf and roll it out. Dancers having inward or outward rotation of their knees. The best way we can support any variations of the knee alignment in bridge is through tracking exercises, taking the dancer back to the tabletop and having them work on exercise that are going to have the knee tracking over the big toe. This may need to go back to simple activities like knee bends and other activities that will help them understand and engage the proper alignment. And finally, the shoulders or the thoracic spine. The thoracic spine is usually the tightest area for most dancers as they're working on their bridge. Let's take a look at some thoracic mobility exercises while I discuss some of the limitations and struggles that we often find in the thoracic range when working on bridges. This will manifest in the dancer tucking their chin to look at the ceiling or not fully extending their head backwards to bring their eye line to the floor. They are tucking their head the wrong direction because it is therefore offloading the stretch that is going from their head through to their feet. So by tucking the chin, they are making it easier and taking away that stretch line, which is, of course, opposite of what we want. We also want to make sure that the head is tracking properly because that is super important in all of our limbering skills and making sure we have proper use of the head so that the spine can articulate properly. Another thing to consider about the thoracic range is that your dancers may be suffering from tightness in their fascia system. Fascia is a thin casing of connective tissue that surrounds the bone, nerve fiber, and muscles and kind of holds them in place. So when fascia is stressed, it tightens up. So it could be that a dancer is in a bridge and they are tucking their chin to offload the stretch of their fascia system. Dancers who have tightness in their fascia will benefit from warm hot tubs and massage through their shoulders as well as at the back of their neck at the suboccipital, which will help release often their hamstrings for a lot of those dancers, which will help them get flexibility gains. So working to understand which of your dancers may have fascial restriction will help them better understand how to prepare their bodies for their acrobatic training.
Awesome, Sarah. I just want to say, mic drop. I think you have, in a 12-minute video, given such an incredible resource to current, upcoming acro teachers, literally to become acro scientists and helping their dancer athletes overcome, really, like you said, some common issues that they may not be able to see without understanding that further level of the anatomy and where things can start to cause challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will put back to our community here to see if anybody, like I said, pretty much mic drop. So Laura says thank you. But if anybody has any questions, you have Sarah here. So now is a great time to ask. Understandably, that's an incredible resource, lots of information, very thorough. So those questions may come up afterwards. And so Miss Sandra says, loved it. Becca, yes, this video will be available in the Acrodance Resource Center as well as on YouTube, and it lives live here on our Facebook page as well, so that you can come back, hit pause. Miss Janae says, awesome, Sarah. So if there are no further questions, we'll let Miss Sarah off the hook. I know that this presentation took years of study and experience leading up to the place where she can share it with us and break it down, but also the time spent in breaking it down in a digestible way so that we can take it away and benefit our students and our studio. So thank you very much, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing.
Bye, friends. Have a great day.
Thank you. So if you are interested in benefiting from the expertise of master trainers and skilled professionals like Sarah with the goal of enhancing dancer results, skills, and potential, visit acrobaticarts.com for upcoming online and in-person opportunities like our Module 1 teacher training. Thanks so much again to Sarah. Thank you, teachers, for joining us for this weekly mini. Joining us again next week. We'll see you then. Bye.